Hey Erica, hope you're having a great week so far. I am really excited to dive into your microbiome stool test results. This is your large intestinal microbiome picture that we know has been contributing to symptoms. It also increases risk of SIBO. So we know there's a connection there, and this helps us get more clarity on specific pathogens, certain probiotics and their metabolites, the bacterial endotoxins present, other things contributing to the inflammation in the gut. So it was really great that you did this and we have a little bit more clarity. So let's go over it. I'll also be sharing with you the PDF of notes that I wrote for you to keep, to go through. And you'll have everything written out. But you obviously can always come back to this video if you want more clarity. So let's dive in. So you have this normal diversity score of 60, which was actually pretty good. So you do have some good diversity in your microbiome. It's not like a super limited microbiome. So we are in a pretty good place with, the commensal bacteria that are pretty good still, which is good. There's always room for improvement though. We could see it go up a little bit higher here on the right-hand side, as you can see, but you're not starting off at a bad place. I really think a lot of the symptoms that are, very prevalent, that have been very prevalent in your everyday life were mostly contributed to by SIBO. And then the large intestinal issues are kind of secondary, but we do see them present and we are targeting them at this moment, actually, with your SIBO herbal regimen. So that actually does address large intestinal issues as well. And we'll be going on to, I would be recommending for you after you're done with the number of rounds that you need for the SIBO treatment, there would be one further recommendation for a large intestinal antimicrobial herbal supplement to kind of cover our bases and make sure we're getting rid of some of the pathogens present. So I will show you a little bit more down about that. So you got this report of all of the microbiome composition that was detected on your report. It's definitely not perfect, but it does indicate the DNA level of certain bacteria, which is usually very accurate. Sometimes it misses things, of course, and there's even bacteria and fungi we don't know about yet. So some stuff is not tested for, but this gives you a pretty good indication of what your microbial numbers look like, the count of different species, the ratio of different species. So I wrote it out in kind of like a bullet list form of what I think is most important. So I'll go over that here with you. So we did see there were many good bacterial strains were not very detected, like some lactobacilli. I think one bifidobacteria and most lactobacilli were not detected. But that is kind of common. So, we do want to be focusing on, like we said, the probiotic challenge, the diversity of species of plants. That is very important over the course of the program as we increase those. And we saw fecal bacterium prosnitzi. Please, excuse me for some of these pronunciations because they are a mouthful, some of them. So that's at moderate levels, this F. prosnitzi. And it's a probiotic that we do want to see higher levels of. It's a dominant species in healthy adults. So when it declines a bit, it's associated with development of chronic inflammation as observed in cases of obesity. So we want to improve our flora by increasing this. There was moderate levels of Coprococcus, Comace, and Cactus. This was, we actually want more of these actually as well. So they produce butyrate, acetate, which are short chain fatty acids. Basically think of short chain fatty acids as benefits or rewards for eating certain fibers. So these basically are unlocked by us eating fiber, and we can't produce these beneficial metabolites without us consuming fiber. So us eating fiber unlocks the benefits of short chain fatty acids, and we'll go over which ones were high or low for you. So we want more of these foods, right? We want more of these foods that produce short chain fatty acids, these prebiotics that increase our probiotic species in our gut. We saw that the LPS level was high and the histamine was a bit high. So this indicates that there are bacterial endotoxins present when we have higher levels of pathogenic bacteria, and that's common. That's a typical thing we see with higher levels of pathogens. We typically see higher LPS or lipopolysaccharides that then can pass through into the bloodstream because of the increase in gut permeability. When this is the lesson that you'll watch, probably next month, I'll have you watch that in the April month, but it's a lesson all about gut permeability and how we have an increase in gut permeability and leaky gut Yes, I know that's like a funny term, right? With leakiness of the gut, it's really called gut permeability. So we have a heightened gut permeability with SIBO and with large intestinal dysbiosis. Then we have those LPS bacterial toxins moving more freely into the bloodstream, affecting your metabolism. This also impacts thyroid health and weight loss resistance and inflammation in the body. So as you can see, this has been kind of working against you in your weight loss efforts, making it difficult for your body to actually achieve weight loss, despite all of the good, healthy eating habits you've been doing and exercise. So I know it's frustrating, but you're really now working on getting rid of these bacteria, reducing those pathogens and rebalancing the microbiome. And this is going to reduce that LPS production, reduce histamine levels. And you let me know if you feel like you have high histamine bucket in your whole body. You might not, but basically if you have higher histamine levels in the gut from these inflammatory bacteria, from higher levels of inflammation, we typically can see higher levels of like seasonal allergies or sinus flares or skin issues, runny nose, things like that. So you let me know. I'm curious to see. I'm not sure if you check that off like as like a major trigger in your check-in and your like your initial forms. But let me know if you feel like if you think you've had bad allergies or anything like that, just because histamine levels can be higher with SIBO and large intestinal dysbiosis. And again, we're addressing that via herbals and improving that balance of good and bad bacteria. So same thing, like you had a little bit higher level of ammonia, and that also has been observed in individuals with impaired gut barrier function and inflammation in the gut. So next month too, when, like I said, when we watch that gut permeability video lesson, you will be really targeting that gut integrity and the gut lining. And just a few diving deeper into some of these pathogens. So something good was that Odorobacterial again, butchering these names, splanchnicus is high, which is a beneficial member of the microbiome that produces large amounts of short chain fatty acids. So that's an awesome thing. And then some pathogens that were high. Roseburia hominis, which has been found to be associated with inflammatory bowel disease development. So we're working on decreasing that. Phocala vulgaris, pathogenic bacteria that's influencing an imbalanced microbiome. Same with Phocacula dore, Alastipes aharondanki, moderately elevated, which is found in higher levels with inflammation and dysbiosis. Lachnoclostridium species YL32, which is high, also associated with dysbiosis and inflammation. So these are pointing out some of the biggest things I saw in your microbiome panel. I also saw E. coli was moderate, which we want it to be on the lower to moderate side. Sometimes it is moderate and it doesn't have any symptoms, but it is good. We're using the antimicrobials to try to get that a little bit lower. And so that is like the picture, I would say, of the bacteria, that some pathogens high, some are good bacteria still. A lot of these are commensal, which means that they are coexisting with the normal flora. They are beneficial. They're not like super beneficial, but they're not pathogenic. So they're basically making up the bulk of your flora. And we see bacteroids and firmicutes, I would say, are like those two that are kind of just always present and aren't really bad or pathogenic or super, super helpful, I would say. So bifidobacterium, we know that is a good bacteria that was found as to be low. Bacteroids, again, commensal. Bacteroids, Caecomeris commensal. Alastipes tends to be more on the pathogenic side. So E. coli, like we saw, medium, moderate, and some of these, that bacteroids is high, that is commensal, but some of these we saw were pathogenic, like Roseburia hominis and some others. So as you can see, there's room for improvement. Like we said, we definitely have things to clean up in the gut. And we all have been working on this with the SIBO biotics regimen, which again also targets the large intestine. So that's great. So we know, again, like I said, dysbiosis in the large intestine associated with development of SIBO. We want to weed out the garden, right, before we plant new flowers. So that's kind of what we're doing with the antimicrobials, is we are weeding out some of the pathogens. We are killing definitely everything that's in the small intestine, but it also helps in the large intestine to weed out some of these pathogens before we really focus on rebalancing and regrowth of good bacteria. So I know we're using the Sacro B right now. That's really important too, because that assists the antimicrobials in kind of weeding out these pathogens. It's a yeast-based probiotic that's really, really good for post-antibiotic use, definitely SIBO use, reducing gut inflammation. So when we're done with that one, we want to move on to Megaspore, which is a spore-based broad spectrum probiotic with lactobacilli and bifidobacterium, which is really important to then move to the next level, help to improve the gut flora even more, improve gut immunity, modulate lower inflammation as we're getting rid of SIBO. We also want to continue to focus on diet diversity, right? So you'll be prompted in your modules to then do more plan challenges throughout the program. About once a month, we trigger it in the modules to really help you just fine tune some of those skills of finding new foods to eat, finding new diversity of plants, especially too as you come off of low FODMAP. We know that becomes a little bit easier. Fermented foods, we're going to do that probiotics challenge to really bulk up that the fermented foods, right, in your diet, the amount of probiotic foods. And then colostrum would also be really good for you in a few weeks to a month, which contains immunoglobulins to support gut health, immune health, help ward off some of these pathogens that we're killing off and make way for improving the gut flora, like feeding beneficial bacteria, support the gut lining, help improve the gut integrity, as well as prebiotics. So that would be the first one for you I'd recommend would be PHGG, which is well known for improving SIBO clearance and having success rate with that. So I will send that to you. It's linked here, but I'll tell you when that would be appropriate for you. In a few weeks, I would say a little bit further into SIBO antimicrobials, but that's also going to help with short chain fatty acid production and feeding those good bacteria, helping to stimulate the upper stomach motility with the small intestine and initiate that adequate motility that's needed for SIBO to be fully cleared. And studies have shown that with PHGG fiber, basically there is a higher chance of clearance rate for SIBO. There's, in this bullet right here, studies have shown higher rates of SIBO success clearing and keeping it away for good with herbal antimicrobials with PHGG fiber included during the treatment plan than with antimicrobials or antibiotics alone. So that's why I really love it. And it's just like a low bloat formula, very easy to digest. So that will help boost good bacteria like lactobacilli, bifidobacterium, Akkermansia, which is another really good bacteria that we want to see. And we typically see that when you have a high ratio of Akkermansia, you have a low rate of obesity and vice versa. So we really want to work on getting that Akkermansia up and getting those butyrate, propionate, short chain fatty acid levels up. The butyrate was actually pretty good. That was the one short chain fatty acid that you had in the report. All of these, different like scales here that you see. So I wrote them out in PDF form here. So your butyrate was very good. So that means that you have good butyrate producing bacteria. So see, you do have a lot of good bacteria as well. We just want to work on kind of creating that whole happy commensal flora with lower pathogens. So propionate was a little low, which is another short chain fatty acid. Indole 3-propionic acid, IPA was low. And this is one of the strongest antioxidants and a critical marker of a healthy gut microbiome. So us working on the microbiome overall is really going to help that. Acetate was low, another short chain fatty acid. Lactate also was low. And we want to increase this by increasing our prebiotic food sources. So I have a whole list of prebiotic foods that are low FODMAP below that I'll share with you that are really great for increasing all of these as we're working on, again, weeding out some of those bad bacteria. You have pretty good fiber breakdown, which is really good sign for your large intestine. So I feel like once your SIBO is in a much better place, you're going to, again, like I know you're feeling better with even bloating now, but you're going to just feel so much better in, I would say, like 2 to 3 weeks when your SIBO is even further gone and your large intestine isn't giving you as much of a problem with fiber breakdown, because that is pretty good. So you have good fiber breakdown in the large intestine. You can continue to work on that by increasing our prebiotic variety. Again, the PHCG food sources. We can even after that move on to different prebiotic powder sources, which are helpful to rotate through, like acacia fiber or psyllium husk. And we could talk about some of those. Good oxalate breakdown, which means you have lower risk of kidney stones. You had pretty good starch breakdown. So you generally are getting good nutrients like B vitamins from your food, which is awesome. So I just wrote some more tips here for microbiome diversity. Definitely focusing on adequate space between your meals for SIBO, because it's really important for our microbes. They actually like that break in the day of having about 3 to 4 hours between your meals. It helps the bacteria clear out of the small intestine. It's beneficial for our healthy microbes to get that little rest. So definitely work on that. Definitely if you need a snack, try to have a balanced, purposeful snack and not do much grazing, which I don't really think you do. So definitely continue what you're doing there. You definitely want to be steering clear of artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, Splenda. All of these things can reduce our gut diversity. So we really want to be focusing on practices that increase the diversity, right? So try to stay away from those. I'm pretty sure you're good with that. And this just shows a little bit more about bifidobacteria, why they're important. We want to be increasing those because they have special weapons to deter pathogens from setting up shop in your gut. They help break down phytonutrients in our food to make them assimilate into your body. And they even provide food for other bacteria, like ones that produce butyrate. So think of it, like I said before, we need to eat fiber to then access these short chain fatty acids. So we eat and we poop, and then bifidobacterium, other beneficial microbes, eat our leftovers food, right? The fiber that we can't break down, and they poop rainbows in the form of short chain fatty acids. So these prebiotic foods help to increase and feed those good bacteria, increasing our good bacterial species, right? Helps weed out bad bacteria when we do that, and then they increase our short chain fatty acid production. So I have a whole list of foods here, a lot of things you already eat, but definitely can maybe increase like your seeds, like your pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, walnuts, pecans, tops of green onions, maybe some leeks, doing more chia, quinoa. There's lots of things here. Flaxseed oil, which is actually surprisingly a good prebiotic food as well, and good healthy fats. And that you would just do, keep cold. We don't want to heat up flaxseed oil. Polyphenols as well increase our butyrate, our propionate or acetate. Some of those were low for you. So dark chocolate, definitely check the Spoonful app or message me if you're not sure about some dark chocolate brands, because some of them are low FODMAP and some aren't. But like Justin's dark chocolate peanut butter, that is low FODMAP. And so I know like Godiva, I'm pretty sure that one's dark chocolate is low FODMAP. The higher the percentage, I'm sure the lower sugar. So that's always best if you can. Low sugar berries like raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, super high in polyphenols that feed those good gut bacteria, and green tea. I definitely even would recommend that matcha. If you've never tried matcha before, it's that like concentrated green tea leaf powder. And I have the link in the Facebook group for 15% off and free shipping. And I really do love matcha green tea, and it's very high polyphenol. So even if you didn't want to use it for like coffee replacement, you could always put it in a smoothie for some natural energy and that calming L-theanine, which is also really good for adrenal glands. Resistant starches, I also listed some here that are also really beneficial for short chain fatty acid production and helping to increase our good bacterial species while we're weeding out bad guys. So we have beans. So right now on low FODMAP, definitely could focus on increasing your chickpeas. So like a half a cup of canned chickpeas, 2 tablespoons or so of black beans, and half a cup of canned lentils, or a low FODMAP. So those are things that you could work on a little bit as part of your starch portion of your plate to boost your resistant starch, your polyphenols, your bifidobacteria, and your short chain fatty acids. I definitely think I know you're eating like brown rice, banana, potatoes, oats, so you're doing good with those. These are more foods to boost your probiotic species. Also check out what I shared today for the April monthly challenge, that whole probiotic chart with basically all the different servings of probiotic foods recommended for the April challenge. So definitely check that out. And here I just listed a little bit more information about butyrate, why it's important, because it's one of the most important short chain fatty acids, I would say, and you do have it in good amounts. So that's awesome. It's anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory. It promotes actually the growth of the villi in our intestines, those little finger-like projections. So it increases the absorption and digestion of our food when we have more butyrate, which is awesome. It helps regulate our colonic motility in the large intestine. It's important for serotonin production, which affects motility and our gut-brain axis, so brain health, mood, anxiety. As you know from that adrenal PowerPoint, those short-chain fatty acids are then sending positive signals to the adrenal glands and that HPA axis, so helping to improve our mood and improve our overall stress state and non-stress state. And if a butyrate affects weight, it affects weight by affecting metabolites that control appetite, and it affects how calories are absorbed and stored. So it affects our fat metabolism. So I really think for you, it's all going to come together as we're improving this imbalance of bacteria in the large intestine, getting rid of SIBO, then starting to really working on feeding our good bacteria with prebiotics, getting our short chain fatty acids up as you continue to promote increased diet diversity. And as we incorporate some other gut lining healing products and supplements to, as needed throughout the program. I definitely do think colostrum would be good for you. Like I said, the Fiberman prebiotic and the Megaspore probiotic after the Sacro B. So that's kind of like my loose plan for the next month or month and a half. So let me know if you have any questions. I just kind of wrote it here as well again, just to round it out for you. And oh yes, with the vitamin production, the vitamins looks pretty good. Just the lowest level of a vitamin in the gut was folate comparative to other B vitamins. The B vitamins looked pretty good. So for diet, you just want to focus on the grass-fed beef liver, which you could get like at a supermarket if you didn't want to continue to take the grass-fed beef liver supplement. But I do believe you have that at home that you can take intermittently, like a few times a week, and definitely green leafy vegetables. So sauteing them, sauteed kale with, let's say, like slivered almonds is really good. Or even just doing like more green leafy salads like arugula, spinach. Microgreens are awesome for folate and even just for feeding good bacteria, getting more plant diversity. Broccoli sprouts, microgreens, watercress, all those bitter greens are great for folate and especially just feeding good, healthy bacteria and increasing that gut integrity. So I'll leave you with that for now. And again, you can read, I'm glad that you read through the glossary a little bit, so you increase your knowledge about some of these terms. But let me know if you have any questions here. This just divides them into, let's say, so these players are good for sleep. So it basically would take what you got on these and divide and assess your sleep score. So your sleep pretty good. Healthy weight, your butyrate was good, but your propionate was pretty low. So that kind of balances each other out. So again, working on the short chain fatty acids and that gut flora will be beneficial for your weight loss and your goals. So again, let me know if you have any questions and I will upload this into your healthy documents tonight. Okay, Erica, talk to you soon.